We're going to determine whether each of the following statements are true or false. So right away you should know that this isn't true because you can't distribute that like this. We have two separate angles, alpha plus beta, and we'll go over that in just a minute, but let's just prove that it's not by filling in the values. So we have sine of pi over 6, which is sine of 30, that's 1/2. And sine of pi over 3 is square root of 3 over 2. And we know that 30 degrees plus 60 degrees is 90, so that's really just going to be pi over 2. Sine of pi over 2 is 1. So clearly, these don't equal. So this is 1/2. This would have to be a 1 for that to be true, and it's not. So let's look at this again. Remember your sum and difference formulas. So pi over 6 plus pi over 3. Remember that that would be sine of pi over 6 times cosine of pi over 3 plus cosine of pi over 6 and sine of pi over 3. So when you do that, you get sine of pi over 6 is 1/2. Cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2. And then these are both square root of 3 over 2's. So basically you get 1/4 plus 3 over 4. And that would equal 1, which we already saw that. That's what that equals. And this does not equal 1. All right? So now let's do this one. We're doing basically 4 total problems here. This one I'm not sure, so I'm just going to have to fill it in. We have cosine of 5 pi over 3, which is going to be 1/2 plus 1. And then I'm going to take care of this piece. Tan squared of 5 pi over 3 is going to be negative square root of 3. And then they want us to square that. And then we have cosine of 5 pi over 3, which is, again, 1/2. And therefore, secant of 5 pi over 3, which is the reciprocal of cosine, is just going to be 2. Then we have minus 1. So basically what we have is this right here is 3/2. And negative square root of 3 over 2, negative square root of 3 squared is just 3. And then this equals 1/2, because 1/2 divided by 1. So this one, if you divide, you get 3 over 6, which equals 1/2. And that does equal 1/2. So this is true. It does equal. So 1/2 equals 1/2. Okay, the next one is this one. We have cosine of 3 pi over 2. So let's just leave the 2 on the outside for a while. We just want to see if this is positive. Whatever value here, is it positive? So cosine of 3 pi over 2 is 0. And sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. And then we have 1 plus 0. So basically we have 2 times negative 1 times 1. And this equals negative 2, or we know it's negative. Negative 2 is not positive. Or negative 2 is not positive. So this is false. And the last one we have is this one. So we have 4 pi over 3 again. Or no, we didn't have that before. So we have cosine cubed of 4 pi over 3. So cosine of 4 pi over 3 is negative 1/2. Then you cube it. Sine of 4 pi over 3 is negative square root of 3 over 2. And then the denominator, we're just going to have negative 1/2 again, but squared. And we want to know if this is positive. So this first part is going to be negative 1/8 minus square root of 3 over 2. And this is just going to be 1/4. So basically, you're multiplying 4 times negative 1/8 minus square root of 3 over 2. And it's going to be 4, so 4 is positive, times a negative number. That's going to be negative. So this is not greater than 0. So this is false. You basically don't have to do any more math because all you have to do is see if it's positive or negative. It's not, so this is false. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Class, Miss Shaw's class. Boy, I love math. Miss Shaw's class, Miss Shaw's class.
Don't fail! Watch Miss Shaw's videos for free.